All right, welcome to the Sketchbook Saga, and this is our very first week's recap. So, this one's going to be just a bit different than many of the others, in that since it's the first one, there's a little bit more to get out of the way. As far as instead of just covering the exercises, how I felt, and what kind of progress I feel like I'm making for you, we're going to talk a little bit about how I got started as well. So, first of all, there is a lot of channel work that goes into creating something like this. And while I have worked on some of this kind of stuff in the past, it's still pretty new to me. So, there's a lot to be done. I'm not even technically posting yet as of the time of recording this particular video. I'm still setting up and getting ready with video formats and kind of testing those. So I'll be going through and testing lighting for a lot of the different videos that I'm making. One of the things that I've noticed so far is that the lighting on my drawings might be a bit too harsh. While it's really good for me, some of the lighter lines with less line strength, the things that I'm using to do kind of guides, those are harder to see on the video today. And so I'm going to improve my line weight, but we are also going to work on that from cameras and things of that nature. There's also just the creating of the channel, right? You've got to go out, you've got to create it on YouTube, you got to create it on Instagram, you've got to do all of that stuff. You've got to work on your sound editing, so you've got to get Audacity or a program of that nature, depending on whether you're doing this free or paid or however it happens to be. You got to get a logo created, you got to get an outro created, you got to get all of this stuff done. Now, I feel pretty good about where I'm at this stage, but I realize I haven't even thought about what my thumbnails are going to be yet, how exactly I'm going to go about that process, and so there's still quite a bit to do. I said I wasn't even posting these videos yet at the time of this particular recording, and I do mean that. That does not mean I'm not going to be going through the 3 exercises a week and a summary process. What that really means is I want to get a nice backlog built for you all, just in case it's right around the holidays, right? What if I get busy for a week and I'm unable to post for you? I want to make sure I'm able to keep this consistent, so I'm probably going to build a 2 or 3 week backlog before I start officially posting. What else did I do to prepare for this channel? We talked a little bit about the overall channel work, but I was a bit of an over-preparer overall, right? The whole purpose is to teach myself how to draw, and I have this bad habit of going whole hog into any and all hobbies that I do, right? So when it came to the materials that I was going to need, I did all kinds of best of research, right? So I have these beautiful pens here, these Micron pens. They are really well reviewed, and while I have tried them so far and think they are excellent, I don't really have a good gauge on what to compare them to. Am I good enough to use the best of the best? Now, these are not probably the best of the best, but they are very high quality, very highly reviewed items. So I got what I needed, but I probably got more than what I needed as well. That is going to also kind of dovetail into the method research I did. So I said I did a lot of material research. I got, all these fancy pencils, the fancy pens, all these other things, right? I got all of that together, but I also researched a lot for methods. And when I say methods, I'm teaching myself how to draw, right? There are a lot of ways to go about that. I knew I wanted to start with a book, right? I wanted to go from step 1 of a drawing book and move through it. What book, though? There is an ocean of information out there. Which book is the best? Which one is going to help me the most on my artistic journey? That's something I spent quite a bit of time looking into, and I came down to 3 books that I'm going to try working with on the channel. Maybe 4 because I have one about anime art styles as well. But the 2 that you're going to see me focus on the most, especially early on, are going to be this 30-minute drawing for beginners book here. I'll actually hold that up in front of the camera instead of in front of my microphone. And then you will be able to draw by the end of this book. This one honestly attracted me because you will be able to draw by the end of this book is just kind of a mantra that I'm looking at here. It's something that I'm looking forward to. I also like that this particular book has space to draw in it as well. So it gives you a lot of what you're looking for. And then I also have this much more massive textbook looking thing, the complete book of drawing. These are the 3 that I'm going to focus on the most as we get started here. That doesn't mean they're the best or the only ones for you, but they're the ones I'm going to focus on. That being said, there are classes, there are videos that muddy the water so much further if you are a newbie to the artistic hobby. And a lot of these videos or classes say, we can teach you to do X in 30 days. We can teach you to go from nothing to virtually a master artist in 30 days. I think most of these things just have ridiculously unrealistic expectations. They're going to be setting pressure on yourself that I just don't think anyone needs early on. Now, I'm not saying that art classes are a bad idea. Art classes are absolutely a phenomenal idea if you have the time, if you have the monetary resources, and if you are not self-motivated. Because in all honesty, what they do is they provide you with accountability, right? And everyone needs accountability. That's honestly part of what I'm doing this channel for. I'm hoping that you, my audience, can help be my accountability, can help hold me to the fire when I get lazy in habits or when I don't post or when I do things of that nature, right? Everyone needs accountability, and I think that's something that classes provide. So all I'm saying is I think that muddies the water. I think there is an overload of information if somebody is just like me and thinking about teaching themselves to draw. So we're going to try to parse through that throughout the channel as well. I'm going to review some of the techniques that I have been using, telling you how well I think they work, and if it just works for my brain or if I think it will work for a specific type person. We'll cover that as well. Okay, all that out the way, let's talk about what the goal of the week was. So every week I'm going to be doing 3 drawings or 3 exercises or lessons or whatever you want to call them. In this particular week, week 1, all of these lessons were focused on basic observational skills or seeing. Now, it's what one of my books calls it, is seeing the skill of sight. If you want to know very granular detail about each of these 3 exercises, please go watch those videos. I'm not going to go into too much detail here. I'm just going to kind of cover the overview. But the discussion of sight really focuses a lot on what shapes and spaces you focus on in your drawing. Do you work from the largest shapes? Do you work from the most unique shapes? Or do you work from negative or trapped spaces? All of that can be kind of beneficial for you. And I want to pause here to explain what a negative or a trapped space is. This is a term that me, as a newbie artist, had absolutely no idea what was. So when I think of trapped spaces now, I think of spaces created in between objects. So for example, if I were to hold my hand up like this, I have this kind of triangular shape that I'm creating. That is now a trapped space. You can make, anything, right? It's not terribly relevant here, but if you were to take a picture of a chair, for example, the space between the slats in the back, the space between the bottom and the floor, the space between the arms and the base of the chair, all of that would be negative or trapped spaces. So that is just my basic definition of that. You can definitely look more into it, but that is a term that I was unfamiliar with. I'm going to try to cover each of those as I come across them. All of that can be really beneficial when new artists typically try to go in and do a straight overall outline. It's really hard to get the right balance and perspective at that point. And so all of these sight exercises were really focused around helping me get balance and me get perspective into my art. I don't know that I've really achieved that yet, and in all honesty, I did struggle in a few areas there. It's pretty hard to get perspective, but we did have kind of that traced hand drawing, right, and that automatically puts your perspective in it. And the trapped space exercise did help me when I drew the plant, though I know I'm kind of forcing the plant into a negative or a trapped space. Let's talk a little bit about the single line drawing here. One of the takeaways that I had from this particular one is, in all honesty, I was disappointed in myself. I picked up my pencil a lot, and the exercise was intended to have me have that sight and perspective in a singular line. It was to help me be confident in not moving my pencil and picking up my pencil and restarting again. And I did that so many times during that. And so I was a bit disappointed in myself, but I did feel like it taught the right lesson of plan before doing, don't really second guess yourself and just go, and to really think about where you're going on the page, really think about mapping out that whole thing, but also really to kind of drive home the point that starting in one area is difficult. More takeaways. I think, in all honesty, early on, I am over detailing and following through in my drawings. They're intended to practice a very specific thing. So the hand drawing, right, I was supposed to put some detail in there, but then I spent another 20 minutes with that detail, And I could have kind of done a few of those. I could have had repetition on what it's actually looking for me to do, that sight perspective, that line weight, that confidence in the drawing, right? There are practice exercises where you're just drawing circles, where you're doing grids, things of that nature. Sometimes that level of repetition is really important. We're going to continue to talk about repetition, but sometimes I'm adding detail that I'm not necessarily ready for. And I want to be very clear here. I think adding detail is natural, because in all honesty, what adding detail does is it adds interest, it adds excitement to the drawing. And if you're drawing, you're probably excited for that. And so I don't want to kill that excitement either in myself or in somebody else. But I do think that you might be better served in regard to progression by focusing on the task at hand. And that's something I'm going to try to remind myself. I'm looking to improve here, I'm looking to practice. And so don't always go completely down the rabbit hole and everything. Focus on that exercise. I noticed a few of the details really did throw me for a loop. Detailing and texturing in the dirt of my desk plant, illustrating the bends and curves of the leaf of that, and showing depth in the forward and backward leaves didn't really come through. And like I said, repetition is key. So I want to make sure I'm focusing on that part and just increasing confidence in my line work. But I will say overall, I feel like I draw decently confident lines compared to what I see a couple of other artists draw. So I do feel like I'm at least establishing okay there. The only other thing that I really want to leave you with here is, if you're also on this journey, please go ahead and join me. But if you're not on this journey and all you're getting from this is a little bit of a feedback loop on what it looks like to start a new skill, or what it looks like to start new art, I think that's great, honestly. And what I want to hear is feedback, right? What can I be doing better? Not just on my art, right? Because I'm always going to be striving to do better on the art. But what can I be doing better for you, the viewer? Can I teach you? No, I'm not qualified, but what can I over-explain? What can I add to my videos? What can I do to increase your viewing pleasure? Whether that is improving the channel, the visuals, the subject matter, whatever it happens to be, please let me know. I might not always agree, but I'm always going to listen to that feedback. I'm going to try to really build a community of new learners that we can kind of discuss and talk and move forward together. Anyway, if you have made it to the end of this video, thank you very much for watching. You have made this worthwhile, and I really appreciate your time. Have a great time, and if you're also drawing as well, enjoy that.